Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining in. Thank you for joining in for another episode of Career Journeys with Coach Stella. I am your host, Coach Stella, and I am joined by the wonderful and talented, and what a dear friend would often refer to people such as her caliber, a champion of the people,
Aw.
a dear friend and soror, Tiffany. Tiffany, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. How are you doing today?
I am well. Thank you for having me. Thank you for considering me and including me in the pod about career journeys. I was so excited when you reached out. I was like, oh, I get to go and talk to my good friend Stella. Like, hey, Sor.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining in. And I know that you have been such a huge fan of the podcast. I see you tuning in time and time again. So I thank you so much for your support. And I appreciate you taking a time out of your busy schedule to come on and not only share your journey, but talk about what your career entails in the hopes of encouraging and inspiring others who are looking to do such meaningful work, such as yourself, within their careers. So thank you so much for joining in. So let's dig right into it. So if you could please start off with introducing yourself to everyone, share as much as you would like that you feel will help us as we go along this journey with you.
Okay, well, my name is Tiffany Patton Burnside. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm so used to giving my full title. So I'm also the Senior Director of Crisis Services with the Chicago Department of Public Health. Um, and yeah, that's really the bulk of my current space of work. It's crisis. I've been doing mental health crisis related work for a good portion of my career. So yeah, I'll share more as the questions come. I don't want to give it all away too soon and run out of time before time gets to time.
Yes, absolutely. But I know the field of social work and that's a very heavy title you just gave for the city of Chicago. Let's Senior Director of Crisis
Services.
Services
Yes.
for the city of Chicago.
Correct. Yes. And
Okay.
what's crazy is with that, so I take the job and I'm singularly focused on the one thing I think I'm there to do, which is lead the city's mental health mobile crisis response team. Little did I know that I'm the only person with the title in the city, and they take that very seriously. Me being the only person responsible for crisis in the city, so mental health related crisis. So I get emails from alders, I get emails from community members, all under the, with the auspices of they need help with someone who's in some sort of crisis. And who knew that I would have that on me? That was not how when this career journey all started. It was just you be social. Actually, no, it was you be nurse. So that was my mom. You be nurse. I couldn't be a nurse. That just I tried to take a nursing course, didn't go so well. And psych and social work were just the things that really spoke to me and really got my gears grinding on ways that I could help people. And it for real, it all started with me trying to understand how people think and so how the brain works. I was very much involved, invested in learning the brain. And I ended up in high school having an internship at University of Chicago studying brain scans of individuals who were diagnosed with depression and bipolar. And the goal was to see the impact of these mental illnesses on the physical brain.
That's awesome. So yeah, so much to unpack there. Let's take it all the way back. It sounds like you're Chicago native through and
Yes,
through.
through and through.
Let's go back to the beginning. Now I know parents have their sights their journey of what they vision of what our journey is going to look like. And it sounds like mom instilled that in you in an early age. So, when you got the question as a child, what did you want to be when you grew up? What was that answer for you? What was that vision?
Be a nurse. You be nurse. That was it. I was everything I knew. My mom was a nurse, and my dad is a welder and fabricator. I have very blue collar parents, and it was get a trade. You need a trade, and nursing had done my mom well, my grandmother well. I come from a family of nurses, I guess, if you will, and that was the natural course of things, or so we thought. And so, in high school, I took courses that were heavy in biology and chemistry in preparation for being a nurse. And in one of my classes, we were talking about it was a biology class, and we were talking about the brain, and we got into a little bit of like mental illness and things like that. And it was like, I like this topic, let's learn more. And at that time, my mom was a psych nurse working at an inpatient psychiatric hospital. And so I would hear her and her friends talking about their clients and the patients and everything. And I was just so enthralled with it. I was just like very curious. I wanted to know more and more and more. And so my very first internship in high school was, she also worked part time at an outpatient clinic with a psychiatrist. And so they brought me on to assist in that space. And within that, lo and behold, they were also doing a medication study for a new psychotropic medication. So now I'm learning about, medications, placebos, who gets a placebo, who didn't, what these medications impacts are on people, not just on their mood, but like the side effects. So we were like really studying the side effects of the medications. Can a pregnant woman take these meds as well? Like it was a very intense study at the time for a brand new medication. And that was like, oh my gosh, I was on fire with the excitement of learning those things, only then to, apply for that internship at UI or over the summer at University of Chicago. And I got that. So I've just been on this journey just because I was curious about how the mind works.
Yeah, yeah. That's fascinating. And one thing I want to ask is Chicago Public Schools,
Chicago Public Schools all the way through. Leaf
product of Chicago.
Erickson. In elementary school, I went to Von Steuben Math and Science Academy, number 3 in the city, for those of you who don't know. And then I went away, and that's when I met you at Iowa State. Came back to UIC, still Chicago, got my master's degree from Dominican University in River Forest. And then, yeah, here we are.
Yes, yes, yes. So let's talk about that. So when it came time to go to college, what was that journey like for you? What was the application process conversation of college? UB nurse, that meant post-secondary education. So talk to me about what got you to Iowa State and ultimately to UIC.
Yeah. So, what got me to, that's a good question. What did get me to Iowa State? Oh my goodness. So I knew that at that time, while yes, the nurse was still very much harking me to be a nurse, I was very much, she was understanding in the space that I wanted to do I wanted to do psych. That was my major. And so what UB nurse turned into is, well, maybe she could be a psychiatrist. So the shift came that I could be a psychiatrist and not a nurse. And then the push became, well, you be psychiatrist now or psychologist, either one, but you be one of them 2 doctors. You be doctor now. And I'm like, yeah, let's see what happens. But I was on that track of, my major was psych. And those were the courses that I was taking. My choice of Iowa State was because they were giving me the most money, coming from the west side of Chicago, like I said, blue collar parents who did not go to college. They went to trade school. So I was the first in my family to graduate from college. And with them going to trade schools, they didn't necessarily know how to navigate that path. And so it was very much like, you know, and my dad will always say, well, we knew you would figure it out. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm glad you all had that much faith in me. Well, you were resourceful, and you were good with your school counselors, and we knew you would figure it out. And ultimately, I figured it out. And that's, yeah, Iowa State offered me the most money in scholarships, and it was like this, I can afford to go here, until I couldn't. And then I came back home to UIC.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that story. That is typically the common thread of the first generation to college student, is that the parents, they support us and uplift us enough to be resilient, resourceful, and able to figure it out. The
Mhm.
expectation is you're going here, we're going to support you as much as we can, but we trust that you will figure out the rest and
Yeah,
you'll know where to go and lean on. And so thank you for sharing that. All right. So and it worked out until it didn't work out.
it worked out until it
And
didn't.
landed back in Chicago and finished up at University of Illinois at Chicago.
Mhm.
And so, talk to me about what that transition, that transfer experience was like for you coming back home, if you were commuted or if you lived on campus, and then ultimately how that led you to your first professional role.
Yeah. So yeah, when I got back home, I stayed with my mom and my stepdad for a while. Um, but as you know, grown folks can't live together at a certain point in time in life. I had been grown on this college campus for a nice portion of time, and then to come back home to the same rules I had as a high schooler, this just did not work. I was like, I can't. I'm not going to be able to do this one. So I found an apartment, not far from home, and straight off the blue line. I was able to get to and from school and to and from work. At the time, I was working at People's Gas. So I was working at People's Gas part time while going to school, trying to finish out this degree. And I changed my major too when I got home. I shifted back to nursing again. You be nurse. So okay, mom, I'm gonna take these nursing classes. I'm gonna try this nurse thing. And the very first class that I took, I barely passed it. Not interested. It wasn't hard. The work was not hard at all. I just was not interested, and that was lesson number one for me. If I'm not interested in something, I'm probably not going to excel in it. So I shouldn't waste time with it. um, and with that, I went right on back to my psych classes and acing them all the way. That was my reinforcement. This lets me know I'm supposed to be here, and I'm taking these courses. I'm understanding this material in very good ways. I'm consuming it in such a way that it felt like it was what I'm supposed to do. And so, yeah, while at UIC, I got pregnant. So shout out to Jelani. So I have a 24-year-old, and he's doing well, but this now complicates things a little bit. So I am in my last full year of undergrad with a whole baby, and I took a full course load that spring. I took a full course load that summer, ill advised by everyone, while I'm still carrying a child and had a high risk pregnancy, and took another full course load that fall. But she graduated that fall 2021. I was done. I was done with my bachelor's degree, and I was like, I have to, because to me, and this is something that my parents, or my mom specifically, had a fear that you got pregnant while you're in college, you're not going to finish school. And because I understood where that was coming from with her, it was like, no, let me double down and try to hurry up and knock this out. And whew, that was a tough time. I was working two part-time jobs because it was also, I do taxes. I've been doing taxes for over 20 years. So as an aside to everything else. So two part-time jobs, a full course load, and I'm pregnant in the city of Chicago with no car. So everything I'm doing is on this blue line, up and down the blue line from downtown to Forest Park every single day. It was insane, by the grace of God, okay? by the grace of God, we are here. And, and Jelani came out just fine. There was a few little complications along the way, but he's doing well. We're doing well, thriving, if you will. But yeah, it was crazy. And I don't know. And you and I were talking earlier about the amount of pressure that we put on ourselves in our earlier years to get to a certain point where hopefully now we don't have to do that anymore. And so all of that hustle and all of that grind at that time, yeah, I had the energy for it. Could I do that again today? Absolutely not. I have zero desire to grind that hard again. No, no, no.
Nor as we think of human development, nor should you.
Yes.
Nor should you.
Just the
You
power
know,
down. We coming down.
Tiffany, I'm reminded as you shared that moment for you, that heavy moment, the grind era, that we'll call that for you, is this is why I feel like Black Girl Magic
Mm,
is so, it's not enough. This
mm,
is excellence.
yes.
This is excellence. And you just gave us insight, um, uh, back back door view of what that entailed for you during that moment.
Yeah.
Um, and as a career coach, this is what I talk about. This is what I uh, guide people, and like this. There's going to be a moment where the grind, but know that it's just that, a moment. And it
Yes.
sounds like to me, you knew that that's what it was, but for the grace of God.
Hmm.
If you can talk to me just a little bit, real briefly, because I want to be cognizant of time. Um, how did you get through it? What or who did you lean on?
Yeah, I had some very amazing best friends at the time, Jelani's godmothers, um, Angela, God rest her soul, and Sharita. And so the two of them, they undergirded me. Jelani's dad was a godsend. He was there every step of the way. Um, Always by my side, making sure that I was able to accomplish the things that I could accomplish, holding things down. We got married, so that was yet more. So fast forward to grad school. Now I have a baby, and he can legit say he got a master's degree in social work because he was right by my side. So and his time is split between daycare and his godmothers who were taking care of him in place of, and his dad would hold it down, held the family down all the time, the whole while. Now I'm in grad school, planning a wedding. So I'm getting married in grad school with a 3-year old. And to your point about those developmental stages, it was like the first 3 years I worked. I worked inpatient psych. So my mom, that was my first professional job in the field. I worked at River Edge Hospital, and my mom was a nurse there. So she kind of, slid me in, helped me slide on through in the door. And lo and behold, I got a job on the children's unit, children inpatient psych unit. And I didn't necessarily prefer children at the time. My mom was like, I don't know how you're going to, work this job. You don't like kids. I was like, I don't have to like kids to do the work. I just have to understand them. And started to, do so much in that space of learning, what mental illness looks like in childhood, for a child. And that is a real thing when people say, oh, you can't diagnose certain mental illnesses prior to a certain age. I have seen a 5-year-old with bipolar disorder. I've seen that. I know what that looks like. And the children that were there, most of the time it was circumstances that brought them there, living in chaotic environments, being wards of the state, not necessarily having a home, if you will. And that is what sparked me to make my move into grad school, going into the child and family welfare track in grad school, because my goal at that time was to open a group home for African American children, children of color. And No, I'm not gonna lie. Black and brown kids. This was who I was. That was my target audience because, or population, because that was who I was working with, and that's who I felt was the most disserved and underserved in the system. And so I'm watching all of these things with these kids, and I'm like, no, they deserve better. Let's see if I can figure out how to go from grad school to opening a group home for these kids and being able to give them culturally appropriate support, because that what I was seeing was definitely not culturally appropriate. I would have between my internship and working on the unit, I'm seeing our little girls come in, hair not done, because the people at the group home didn't know how to comb black hair. And you and I both know, if your hair is not quite right, you not quite right. First thing we gonna do, let me go ahead and put this hair together so we could feel better. That helps us a lot. And to come in and I'm looking at these babies and they look uncared for because the people that were caring for them didn't know how to. So culturally appropriate care was what I was working towards. Um, Finished grad school, had a husband, got a kid, we're doing great. And I went to child welfare from there. And I worked specialized foster care at UCP Seguin Services, which um, it was an amazing career move. Most of the work, because I'd worked inpatient psych, I had crisis experience in a hospital setting, and this work was crisis. These children were specialized foster care, so they had medical complexities, they had behavioral health issues, and I was a behavior analyst. So my job was to excuse me, analyze how the quote unquote problematic behaviors or and symptoms, and then work with the foster parents to be able to better support the children as they were growing up in these foster homes, with the goal for some of them to return home. So I was also working with biological families as well, within this space. And, at that time, I was able to get supervision so that I could get my license. Thanks to my good friend Carla, who signed off on my L's. So, she helped make a way for me to get my LCSW. And then, because she's such a great friend, made a way for me to get my next job as a director over a crisis program at HRDI, which is stands for Human Resource Development Institute on the south side of Chicago. So yeah, everything, Chicago all the way through. So yeah, I got over to HRDI, and now I'm supervising hospital-based crisis. I worked in a hospital, worked with people who had, mental illness at all ages. So it was, no brainer that I could do this job, not knowing that that job would then parlay me into being the director of mental health for the agency over time. So I was at that agency for 7 years. And over that 7 years, I probably had 3 title changes that landed me ultimately as the director of all of the mental health services within the agency. So that sprungboarded, but within that space of crisis, I started understanding and seeing different things. Inpatient crisis happens in community. It starts in the community. And again, back to things that happen in the community is how we got here. So what are we doing in these communities? How can we decrease this? And the number of people of color who are overdiagnosed, misdiagnosed, what is going on? So again, gears grinding. I'm working with law enforcement. I'm working with the fire department. I'm working with, public safety agencies at this time, trying to help on the community side mitigate things and decrease the utilization of emergency rooms, unnecessary use of emergency rooms. There are a lot of people who only get services and treatment in the emergency room. They won't go to a doctor. They don't have regular physicians, regular appointments. They don't do those things. You get a cough, I'm going to the ER. You stub your toe, I'm going to the ER. These voices won't be quiet in my head, I'm going to the ER. And I'm going to get whatever they tell me to do here. And then I'm going back to my life until all of this happens again. I'm going back to the ER. And these cycles just keep cycling through. People just keep cycling through. So what do we do to stop that? Now I'm thinking, how do we make impacts in the community? Because it starts in the community before we get into the building. So that led me to community-based crisis work, partnering with the police in various different ways. And then the city came calling. I had been the only person really doing the work, partnering in the spaces. And before we, like, the city came calling because there was a catalyst that happened. Picture it, Chicago, 2019, pre-COVID, and 2020, and the world is going up in flames. We're at home, it's COVID, and you're watching on the news the shooting of Laquan McDonald. And I'm sitting at
with Floyd during
yeah,
COVID.
yeah, but
Yeah,
I'm keep it local to Chicago, the shooting of Laquan McDonald. And I'm
yeah.
sitting at home and I'm like, that didn't have to happen. That didn't have to happen that way. It didn't. And because I know good police officers. I know that they have CIT trained officers. I know that there could have been a better way. And then the shooting of Latonia LeGrier and his neighbor, all because of a phone call. And it was that was it for me. I was like, no. There has to be something. And again, I'm working alongside those crisis intervention trained officers. The city ends up in a consent decree behind it. And we're working through writing up the consent decree. I'm in the room with all of the big wigs and of all of the public safety spaces and all of the concerned community citizens, and to ensure that this does not happen again in our city. This cannot happen again in our city, not over here. And that I feel so strongly about Chicago. It's like, not my city. And so I'm, still doing this work. This is aside from me being the director of mental health. So I'm doing these two things at the same time, just trying to make sure that we as a people are not injured in that way, not knowing that Mayor Lightfoot would put together the city's first and only mental health alternate response mobile crisis team. The city comes calling. I thank my old boss, Alicia, who at the time I did not know. I'd never met her before, other than maybe one or two meetings. And she emailed me directly, here's a job posting. You should apply. I looked at it and it sat for a week. I did not. I was like, the job was perfect for me. It was everything that I had already done. I'm like, you know what? And then shout out to our dear sister friend, Kim, who pushed me a little bit. Girl, you don't go ahead and interview for that job. What's the worst that could happen? You get a job. You could always get a job.
So let's pause. Let's pause for a second. So, okay, this is I did not know this. So let's unpack this a little bit. So you were given an opportunity and you looked at that opportunity and said, this actually encompasses my entire career journey. And you let it sit. Talk to me about that.
I did.
Why?
Honestly, I think it was a bit of imposter syndrome. I don't always see what I do because I'm doing it. I don't see the impact. It comes from other people see what I'm doing. Other people see how I'm moving. Other people comment on it. I just do what is innate to me. And so what I feel like, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, as my dad says, do what you're supposed to do, be where you're supposed to be. And I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm where I'm supposed to be. Things will line up and it'll happen how it's supposed to happen for me. And so I sat with it because I honestly didn't think I would get it. I'm like, it's a city job. So many people in the city. And my other friend, Vivian, she reminded me, she said, you're the only person who knows what you know. You're the only person in the city who has traveled out of state with the police and the county to look at other mobile crisis response models. I was like, I did do that, didn't I? I just be doing stuff. I didn't ask to go. I was sent. You were also, sent to present on your work. You presented at a whole conference in Colorado on your work. I was like, I did do that. Again, I'm just moving and moving and moving. It doesn't dawn on me everything that I've actually done in this space. I just hadn't seen it. I don't see what I do. I just do. And so between the two of them staying on me, and I mean, they were on me. I'm like, fine, I'll apply for the position. I apply for the job. The city comes, they call back, and now it's interview time. When I tell you, there were only two people. This was a massive interview. There were about 5 interviewers on the interview. Of the 5, there were only 2 people that I did not know, and they were internal city people. So the lieutenant was on the call, whom I traveled with to Houston. We knew each other. She knows my work. I had been working with her intimately throughout the course of crisis, hospital-based crisis work. She was my point of contact. The fire chief, I had worked with him in an effort to we had a triage, the Roseland Community Triage Center at the time. I had started a triage center. So many things in my career. I didn't think these things were that impactful because I'm just steady moving forward. And he was on the call and he's like, oh, hey, I'm just speaking to everybody. That interview was so chill because I already knew everyone, and they knew me, and they knew my work. And I was like, oh, snap. I'm answering these questions like it's a breeze. The interview was slated for an hour. I think we probably took 20, 30 minutes. The questions seemed like they were written just for me. Can you give us an assessment tool that you would use in the community? Da, 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 da. I'm rattling off stuff that I just do in my sleep. And so I was like, man, okay, God, go ahead and open this door real quick. And before I knew it, and the way the city works, nothing happens fast. It's 6 months at least. I had that interview in May. I started that job in July.
Wow.
I was on books for the city of Chicago in July, and creating a new team, creating something brand spanking new for the city that, we really need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even in you, thank you so much for sharing this, Tiffany. Even as you talk through your journey, it's the human development cycle. You have studied intimately the brain, mental health, throughout the course of a human lifespan in all different sectors, from the welfare to foster care to inpatient adults to community-based organization, and even, and I'm forgetting, not even thinking of your internship experience where you got firsthand exposure in inpatient psychiatric care.
Yeah.
But throughout that entire journey, you've been able to implement a systems thinking approach where you were able to diagnose the root cause, and it all comes back to the community, which led you back to the community, to a community-based organization that then propelled you.
Yes, thrusted,
catapulted,
Girl, yes.
by crook when it comes to you, because when the opportunity came, you sat on it. And I love how you framed it, in that you were just doing what you needed to do. You were moving on. Okay, first goal, first accomplishment, done. You see a problem, you implement change, moving on to the next, moving on to the next, moving on to the next, never stopping to look back and see.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it wasn't until you sat down in that interview and saw, oh, this is just a regular Tuesday.
That's exactly what it was. It was a regular Tuesday with some questions about how I do the work that I do. Yeah. And because I do the work that I do, and I say do in the sense that it is Heart work. It's not just that I do a thing. This is heart work for me, and I'm passionate about it. Um, because it's what I'm supposed to do. It's when I feel like it's one of the it's a situation when people say, you find your calling. And I don't necessarily think I found a calling. I think the calling called I got called. I got called up and it was like you could do this. You see things the way you do. You move how you move. Your work ethic is unrivaled. Like you take care of the people. I'm a caregiver. That is who I am. And that's who I am to my core. And being understanding, recognizing, and leaning into it, yeah, I'm a social worker. That's who I am. I don't see things in any like I have the ability to see a lot of different purviews and sides of things and give grace and benefit of the doubt because I'm a social worker and I understand things don't happen. People's behaviors are symptoms of other things. So if you're looking at a problematic behavior, it's a symptom of something larger. And I want to figure out what that bigger thing is so we can address that so this other thing can go ahead and dissipate. And because that has been how the lens in which I view the work of finding root causes, finding the symptoms, looking at symptoms and finding root causes, it's just been, an interesting journey. And that's how we got here.
An amazing, extraordinary journey. And again, the reason why I call you, how my dear friends refer to someone of your caliber, a champion of the people. Tiffany, thank you for the work that you do, the work that you continue to do throughout the city of Chicago. Let's not, that is heavy, heavy work, but desperately, desperately needed. Thank you so much for answering that call, come hook or crook. Thank you for answering it. Thank you for continuing to do the work. And thank you for sharing your journey. I would love for you, again, given the time, to, if someone is looking to get into the field of social work. I'm thinking about someone who's just starting out, so high school, middle schoolers, all the way to someone who's looking for a career pivot. They've been in the caretaking industry, or maybe not, but they're so inspired. What's step one? You can speak to my the early career folks just starting out, and then to my pivot folks.
I think what I tell when I used to work with interns, what I would tell them is that this is a labor of love, not a labor of money. So understanding that the field is not a lucrative field to be in. You will will always tell people, because you are taking care of God's people, God will take care of you. And as long as that stays forefront, you kind of stop not paying attention, because the bills are the bills and recession is recession. And we can't even really get into the geopolitics right now of it all. But within that, recognizing that it's hard work. So it's hard work and hard work, taking on other people's baggage, taking on other people's stuff sticks with you. It stays. It doesn't go anywhere. So make sure that you have a strong core for yourself. Make sure you are rooted before you start thinking about helping another person. Not to say that you make sure you are taking care of yourself in advance. You have good self-care practices in advance of anything, because once you get started, you'll lose that. You'll lose yourself because you're too busy caring for other people. So know who you are, be rooted in who you are first, have good self-care practice, recognizing that you might need to have another job at the same time. Again, I've been doing income tax returns for over 20 years as a part-time job to ensure that that the ends still keep meeting, because the work there were times where it was just like, coming out of grad school, I was making $40,000, and I was like, yeah, $40,000. Yeah, that mortgage though, that didn't really make a dent in that mortgage. So get another stream of income. And at that, I've had, through the course of my work, I've had several other streams of income just to make sure I'm okay. But those doors opened up easily for me. It was like, hey, come over here and do this work with me right quick. Make this money. I trust you. I believe in you. Come on, you can do it. And that was my work with Assist Her. Whole other set of work where I worked with adolescent girls, doing adolescent girls groups. Shout out to my good friend Samantha for thinking of me in that moment. Having a good network, that's the other thing I would say. If you're in grad school, make friends with the people you're in school with. Those connections open doors. Samantha got me at Assist Her. Now I am working some contract work with Dr. Anthony Grady, who I went to grad school with. Like, I went to UIC with Samantha. These are people who, they see your work and will call you up and say, hey, I got some work for you. You busy? You free? Can you help? Networking is important in this field because it's a very small field. Everybody knows everybody, especially in Chicago. Everybody know everybody. You work in a hospital setting, a member of my team may have hospitalized somebody there, and I know you because I work there too, and you still work there. So, you have climbed the ladder there, and now I'm meeting with you as the intake coordinator, and I'm over here trying to feed your hospital. You never know. Those connections that you have, that you've made, keep them strong, feed them, and they will take care of you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for imparting all these rituals, all these gems, all this advice. And thank you so much for going there with your story and giving us the beautiful, the bad, the ugly, the heavy. And I love how you talk the number one tip of take care of yourself before you take care of others. Make sure your foundation is solid before you help someone else rebuild their foundation.
Yep.
So thank you for that being your first advice. I think that is number one, step one.
Yeah.
Know thyself before you help someone figure
Facts.
who they are
Yeah,
too.
because even in that space of the work that we do can be re-traumatizing, understanding secondary trauma and all of these things, and you may not have remembered something that happened to you as a child, and now you work in child welfare, and you have to deal with your own feelings around something that is going on with a child that you have to help support in some way. Yeah, how does that work? You have to deal with your stuff first, or at least acknowledge that there's stuff there. So
Now,
yeah.
I would get with that, as someone who's in this field, what does professional development look like? Are there trauma informed practices or trainings or learning that someone who's in this industry, how does the industry take care of the workers? I know that's a heavy question, but
Heavy question. I think within this space, we're getting there. I don't think it was initially a thing. I think since COVID and people are having the realization of everything, like, we who do the work knew this. The rest of the world didn't, because the rest of the world was just moving and moving, moving. And during COVID, everybody had to stop, sit down, and sit with themselves in quiet. It wasn't just that you had to be still, you had to be still with you. And some people came to realize they don't like themselves. They came to realize, oh, I got some issues. I got some things I need to work through. But I would have never heard, I would have never noticed it because it's so much noise outside. And it was quiet during COVID. We all had to sit in that. And with that, it became more apparent that there is a need for support for us, that we need to support ourselves. And so the NASW, has been rallying. And I know one of our new requirements for license renewal in Illinois, and it might be a national thing, I'm not sure, I only know Illinois license renewal stuff, but we have to now take supervisor training. And it's a course where we learn how to supervise the next generation of clinicians. But in that, we're also learning the trauma informed responses. We're learning to teach our teach our staff and students how to care for themselves, the importance of it, implementing the things that you would implement, that mindfulness practice that you would implement for your client or help your client self implement. You're now doing this across the supervision table with your staff, all of these things, and helping us to be more thoughtful and intentional in how we lead the work and lead the people. So the field now is in that space, and you hear us all talking about self-care this and mindfulness that, because it's real. And because we all need that reminder. We all need that reminder.
It's in order to sustain and not and live to our expected life
Mm-hmm.
expectancy. We got to take care of ourselves. Can't pour from an empty cup. All the things, all the mantras. Tiffany, thank you so much for imparting all of this. Before I let you go, I like to end all my interviews with some lightning round questions.
Before we do that, I have one thing I want to say.
Please.
And it's because I'm currently actively hiring. So I'm going to give this shout out that the city of Chicago is hiring for the CARE program. CARE stands for Crisis Assistance, Response, and Engagement. It is the city's 911 alternate response team, meaning if someone in the city of Chicago calls 911 and they're in a behavioral health crisis, instead of getting a police only response, now there are social workers or clinicians and EMTs that are able to respond to you in crisis as well. And we are in the process of expanding. And so with that, I am hiring for clinicians. So if you have your master's degree and your LSW or LPC, please look at the City of Chicago website, City of Chicago Jobs, and the position is posted. It just posted yesterday. And then I am also hiring for EMTs. So if you know anyone who is an EMT, if you're an EMT yourself, please go to that website. We are desperately in need of filling this position for the EMTs. So please, 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 that's my shout out. That's my shameless plug because I need staff.
All right. And then EMT, what do you need to become an EMT? I know that's not your career journey, but what are some requirements?
So my son actually is an EMT, and I can tell you what he did. He went to school. So there are the community colleges, the junior colleges have EMT programs, and that is the emergency medical technician program. So you take the class, get your certification. EMT work has you work in private ambulances. You can parlay that into working at a fire department, and that going through the fire department opens you up to becoming a paramedic. You could also do, for some fire departments, you can do a firefighter paramedic track. So it's a nice career to go into, and or it'll take you into the medical field as well, or not medical field, but in the hospital setting as well. You may be an EMT in an emergency room. So it is a path that I didn't really look at until we got here, and now I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. I love it. I love it. So
It takes a village. It takes a village, the village of social work. Thank you for, I heard EMT and I'm like, oh, that's different than social work. What do folks need for that? So I will definitely be sure to plug that on all social media channels and on LinkedIn. Tiffany, thank you so much. Any other final plugs or final thoughts as we wrap up today?
Nope. I just want to shout out the CARE team. I see you, CARE team. Y'all in these streets doing good things. That's
Yes.
it.
Doing amazing things, saving lives. Thank you. All right, so I have some lightning round questions to get us going here. Top of mind thinking, don't think too hard, just whatever comes to mind. I would love to hear them. Ready?
Yes, I got it.
Right. A morning ritual that you try not to break.
Oh, washing my face, my skincare routine.
Yes.
Urban Eden is the products that I use. Yeah, my skincare routine. I am good on making sure I use all of my products to start my day with a fresh, clean face. That's the thing people see. So that's the thing I want to work on. So I do that. I don't take that for granted. With the cold roller thing on my face, all of that. I do all of that in the morning, every morning.
Awesome. I love the perspective of it's the first thing people see, so I take care of that first. I love it. All right, number 2, a book that has made a huge impact on you or that you keep coming back to?
Mm. What's interesting is The Alchemist is a book that was introduced to me by our sister friend Kim, and I do come back to that. But then I also would. This is gonna sound ultra, but whatever. The Bible, and it as I have grown. People will always say people have said that I'm churchy, whatever. I don't care. I love the Lord, and He loved me, and He take care of me, so I'm gonna keep doing it. But in that space, as I have grown up and matured, the word of God has grown and developed and evolved for me as well. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the Bible. Mainly the word of God, not necessarily the Bible for all of the uh, people who are questioning it as it stands, but the word of God itself.
Thank you. All right. Number three, what song automatically shifts your mood?
Ooh, MC Light, light as a rock.
Nice. All right. And number four, last but not least, complete this sentence. Lately, I am learning to.
Put myself first.
Hmm, very, very important. Tiffany, thank you so much for talking with us today. If folks have questions or want to explore more, where can they find you?
They can find me at Tiffany, this is going to be a long one, Tiffany.patton-burnside at cityofchicago.org, or this is easier, care program at cityofchicago.org.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in for another episode of Career Journeys with Coach Stella. Be sure to catch past episodes on our YouTube channel, Career Journeys at Coach Stella. And we'll look forward to seeing you at the next Journey episode. Take care, everyone. Be well and have a restful evening. Bye bye. Thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you.